and welcome to Traditional Painting the Digital Way. This is where I use digital painting apps to teach traditional painting techniques. This is part 4 in my window box flowers series, and in this video we're going to start working on the flowers and start adding detail to them. If you want to follow along with traditional materials, check out part 1 where I have a list of the paint, canvas, and brushes that I use. I'm using Infinite Painter for Android, and we're going to go ahead and start working a little bit more on the edge of the window seal again, and I'm using the straight edge tool here, and I just want to go ahead and try to get a little bit of a straighter line there under the window sill. And if you're following along traditionally, you can use a ruler or a T-square, just something that has a straight edge there. And the horizontal lines are a little bit perspected here, so they're going to be at a slight angle. And so that's why I'm using the straight edge tool there, just to keep the lines sort of straight. And then I want to go ahead and add just a little bit more wood texture at the bottom, and I want it to be a little darker because that's going to be in shadow there. So you can use your number 6 flat brush to add a little bit more of some darker paint there. And make sure that you use a dry brush technique, which means that you don't have a lot of paint on your brush. And this would be for working traditionally, and you can also select the dry brush selection in Infinite Painter. And here I wanted to go ahead and sort of start working on the flowers. And I added some little purple flowers there, and you can go ahead and use dioxazine purple if you're following along traditionally, maybe throw in a little white acrylic gesso. And then you could add a little bit of some red to that mixture to get a pinker look for the purple flowers. And I'm just kind of making the shapes of the flowers. I'm not making any big details. And I'm going to start on the red flowers, and I'm going to use a darker underpainting, which means that's just your first layer of paint. And you can do this on a separate layer so that it's easier. If you mess up an Infinite Painter, you can go back and fix that. And so I'm making the shapes of the flowers, but I'm not doing, big individual petals or anything because these flowers aren't close up. So you just kind of get the mass of the flower in, and you can use your number 3 round brush if you're following along traditionally. The Leo brush works well in Infinite Painter for this. And I'm also doing the underpainting for the white flowers, and I'm using sort of a light purple color. And again, you can use dioxazine purple with white acrylic gesso if you're following along with your acrylic paints. And I'm just making the same masses of paint and shapes there, just trying to get an idea of flowers that are pointed towards you, flowers that are pointed away from you. You just kind of make some general shapes. And some flowers that have a little bit more of the petals sticking out. That's just kind of how you would make the distant looking flowers. And then I'm working on the red flowers, and I'm adding the second layer of paint, and it's a brighter red color. And I'm not killing all the dark underneath it though. I'm leaving it to show in the center and on the edges so that it looks like there's shadows underneath the petals there, and that just gives you your 3-dimensional look. And I'm just kind of smudging them to make sure that they don't have any real big sharp edges because these are distant flowers, so they're going to be kind of indistinct looking. And you can do this with another brush, or you can just do this with your finger or paper towel if you're following along traditionally. If you're following along in Infinite Painter, set the smudge brush on Filbert or Leo or dry brush to something that will give you a softened edge. And so that's what I'm doing with the red flowers, and making sure that I don't kill all the dark because we want that 3-dimensional look there. And so you want to go ahead and kind of do that also with the purple flowers, and you can add a little bit of some highlight to them. And here I'm adding a little bit of darker center back to the red flowers, just to make it look a little bit more three-dimensional. And some of them might not even have centers. The ones that are sideways and facing away from you, you won't even see the darkened center. But if you want to make them look like they're facing you, then you would put in the darkened center. And here I'm adding the third highlight to the red flowers, and it's just a lighter pink color. And I'm just adding it to the edges. I'm not covering all of the red for it. And then I'm adding some of that pink color to the purple flowers too, just a little bit on the edges. They're not going to be quite as distinct as the red and the white flowers, but they just add a nice complement to the whole painting. So I want them just to kind of be in the background. And then I want to go ahead and highlight the white flowers, and you can take some white acrylic gesso and add just a tint of either yellow or cadmium orange, and that will give you the highlight for the flowers. And you don't want it pure white just yet, because these are kind of in the shadows, so they're not going to be as bright as they would be in the sunlight. And here I'm going ahead and I'm highlighting the white flowers, and you'll see in a minute that I actually lose this whole layer. And so there was a bit of a bug in Infinite Painter, and I'm a beta tester, so this happens from time to time. So what you do is you export each stage of your painting out, and as you can see, I had it right before I added the highlights to the white flowers, so I didn't lose anything. And this bug has been fixed in the newest beta update, so that shouldn't happen again. So anyway, I went ahead and just redid it again, and that's why I say to save and to export each stage out, because this does happen, and it happens in all different digital programs. So always save your work, always save different stages of your work. It's very important. And so I'm just adding the highlight again to the white flowers. And I'm kind of keeping some of them in the shadow a little bit bluer and not quite as bright looking, because it's going to be sort of shadowed on the right side. And then the ones that are on the left side are going to be a little bit brighter. And so you can add a little bit of a lighter white there if you want to kind of make it like it's getting more light and it's getting more reflected light. And then I wanted to go ahead and add the leaves to the flowers now. And we already have sort of an indistinct look of leaves, but I wanted to make these a little bit more detailed. And so I'm using the Svetlana brush, and you can use your number 3 round if you following along with your acrylics, and you just kind of want to make little crescent shapes, sort of, and just make little sticking out leaves on the edges. Make the edges look like they're uneven, and they're kind of growing up around the flower box, and you want these to go over the tops of some of the flowers, and that just gives it the three-dimensional look. And you would go ahead and use pockets of dark and light for the flowers. You can use a darker green, and then you could go ahead and use a sort of a phthalo yellow green if you're following along with your acrylics, and a hooker's green for the darker green. And maybe throw in a little bit of purple and a little bit of some yellow highlights. And you just want to go ahead and make the edges look like the leaves are sticking out there, and make pull it out over the edge of the flower box, over the edge of the wall, around the white flowers, around the red flowers, make sure that you don't cover up all of your little purple flowers. You want to make sure that there's still a little bit of the purple flowers peeping through the leaves as well. But you can go ahead and sort of settle them down as well by pulling the leaves over the top. So this is the end of part 4 in my window box flower series. And in part 5, we're going to go ahead and just add the final touches to the painting and straighten up the edges of the shutters and just do a little bit more cleanup work. So if you want to see that, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And thank you all for your support. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments down below. And I will catch you later.